powered by Riverside FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button to continue the station growing. Let's get the crutch out of the way first. Because when things like this happen, you have a variety of different people. You have the people that are super negative, that are going to jump off the cliff, and then you have a group of people that are going to be overly positive, you know, in these type of situations where you really don't feel like hearing it. But let's get these things out of the way first. Let me say what I know I'm going to hear everybody say. That was a face mask at the end of the game against Sam Darnold. It was a face mask. Easy call. It's unfortunate that the referees were incompetent to be able to make that call at the end of the game, but they didn't. But it had nothing to do with us losing the game. Just let me say up front that it was a face mask. Number two crutch, we're 5-2. If I know people are going to say, if you would have told me that we're going to be 5-2 at the start of the season, we would be happy with 5-2. And I am happy with 5-2. So let's just get those two things, because I know that's what you're going to hear tomorrow on different podcasts and radio shows, and anybody that follows the Vikings, you're going to hear those two things. You're going to hear about the face mask, and you're going to hear about the Vikings are 5-2. Relax. Don't panic. The Vikings are 5-2. Well, if 5-2 is not such a big deal and we should be happy with that, why does it feel so bad? If you're a Minnesota Vikings fan tonight, why does it sting if you know you should be happy that we're just 5-2? A lot of things I noticed tonight. And here's another thing that I want to throw on the table, because there are a lot of cynical Viking fans out there. There are a lot of fans that were waiting for the shoe to drop. And then you always have, I don't know, man, whether it's, you know, diehard Minnesota Viking fan shows that always try to point out these people and make fun of them and say, hey, these people, they're just so critical of the Vikings. They're so negative. You got enjoy the 5-0 start, because there are people out there that are just waiting for the shoe to drop. They have no faith in the Vikings. You know, this is why. Because when the Vikings were 5-0, there were some people that said, well, we've seen this, done that before. I said it on the podcast with Patrick Buchanan. We've been here before. What is different? What is going to be different? Because usually the Minnesota Vikings find a way to unravel all of their work. It was like their winning streak last year that got everybody excited, and then they unraveled all of their work. And it seems like this may be heading down the same stretch. I get the love and support for the team. I really do. But you can critique the team and be critical at times without being painted as jumping off the cliff or jumping off the bandwagon and not having faith in your team. You know, there was a rumor bounced around this week about Sam Darnold for Matthew Stafford. And again, I was on record saying that I don't know if that's a good trade. I don't know if that would be a good trade. And I don't know if, you know, that's something that's in reality, that's in the works. But I would understand if it did happen. And people were talking about Matt Stafford like he was garbage. Did you see Matt Stafford tonight? Did he look like garbage? Did he look like an upgrade from Sam Darnold? And there were people that were talking about how unvulnerable Brian Flores' defense is. And Brian Flores' defense has been playing lights out. His defense has been playing lights out. But am I not a Viking fan, or if I'm jumping off the bandwagon, if I say that the last two games, they've been kind of mediocre? And if you think Brian Flores' defense is that good, and maybe their defense is not to blame, well, you just had a quarterback that you told me was too old, was a shell of himself, injury prone, that just went up against what you say is the best defense in the NFL and threw 4 touchdowns tonight. Now, which one is it? You can't have your cake and eat it too. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be just fine. But when they show chinks in their armor, it's okay to critique and call them out on it. This is another one of these dry spells that I was talking about. Man, the Minnesota Vikings, for their first couple of possessions, looked fantastic. The rhythm in which Sam Darnold was distributing the ball was fantastic. They had JJ involved in the game plan. They were going tempo, no huddle, slinging the ball all around the field. Handoffs to Aaron Jones. He's galloping for 4 to 5 yards, keeping the Vikings on schedule. Then a nice play to Oliver down by the end zone, touchdown. I mean, man, it was beautiful. It was a ballet. And as I always talk about on the podcast, UP Nation, you've heard me before. Those that tune in every day, you've heard me say that no matter what happens, there is all of these dry spells. You don't know when it's going to come, but it always hits at some point during the game. And I thought the way the Minnesota Vikings started off, I said to myself, when is the dry spell coming? Because there hasn't really been a game, not under the KOC regime, where we've just played all 4 quarters. That's self-admitted by Kevin O'Connell himself. When he first got here, he was preaching about, hey, we just got to find a way to put all 4 quarters together. And they really didn't get that accomplished his first year. And then last year, they were up and down. They really didn't get that done last year. We're talking about an offensive guru that's got to find a way to keep this offense consistent, because it shows flashes of greatness. And I don't know if TJ Hawkinson's going to be that guy that's going to help in that respect, but we got to get him back. He's not doing us any good on the sideline. We got to get TJ Hawkinson back in there. And unfortunately, we lost a huge piece to the puzzle tonight in Christian Darrisaw, left tackle. He protects Sam Darnold's blind spot. We don't know the significance of that injury, but it definitely didn't look good, especially with the guy that big that relies on his legs to be able to push the run and protect the quarterback. People are going to right away jump on B-Flow's defense. And again, B-Flow's defense has looked mediocre the last 2 games. But I told you what the blueprint was. I told you. I told you what the blueprint was. B-Flow's defense is predicated on pressure and illusion. And if you take away the pressure and illusion, you got a shot to beat the Minnesota Vikings defense. You take away the pressure by being able to stay on schedule. You take away the pressure by being able to run the ball. You take away the pressure by enhancing your scheme, your screen game. These are the different ways that coaches will continue to attack the Minnesota Vikings. If the Minnesota Vikings can get you off schedule, they got you. That's a tough defense, man. If they can blitz you and send guys from different angles and you don't know who's coming, you got issues. You got a problem that night. But if Our opponents can run the ball down our throats and make those third downs, 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 2s, get 5 yards on the first down by running the football. Brian Flores' defense cannot pin their ears back and rush the quarterback, and that's where they're great. If teams can run the ball. And this is what you've seen the last couple of games. People haven't figured out Brian Flores' defense. They're just staying on schedule. The Vikings have to find a way to stop the run against teams that really want to run the football. And people were saying that the Minnesota Vikings had one of the top run defenses in the league. Their first couple of games, I don't think that those teams really wanted to run the football. They saw those guys up on the line of scrimmage and they abandoned it. The Detroit Lions were convinced that they had to run the ball. The Los Angeles Rams were convinced tonight that they had to stay on schedule and run the ball and supplement the run with the screen game. You saw it tonight from the Los Angeles Rams. The Minnesota Vikings jumped out to a 5-0 season. And they are threatening right now to undo all of their work. I'm not being extreme. I'm not jumping off a cliff. I'm just saying they were 5-0 just 8 days ago. And now they're 5-2 in a jam-packed NFC North. And again, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, if you would have asked me before the season if I would take 5-2, I would take 5-2. Of course, I would take 5-2. But if it's like that, why does it sting so bad? If we are fortunate enough to be 5-2, why does it sting so bad? I'll tell you one area that the Minnesota Vikings have to get better at, and that's their discipline. Kevin O'Connell calls it self-inflicted. Well, they had a lot of self-inflicted tonight. And here's what I know. Kevin O'Connell is going to come to the podium and he's going to talk about, maybe he already has. I haven't seen the post-game presser, man. I haven't watched it. But the one thing he's going to talk about, I guarantee you, is he's going to talk about the self-inflicted. Well, at some point, you got to stop talking about it and you got to do something about it. Whatever is going on, these guys are not getting the message. I mean, it was so fun tonight. Whenever we had an opportunity to get the other team off the field, there was somebody with the dumbass penalty. Grabbing and holding, pass interference, just dumb stuff. Just dumb stuff. Self-inflicted. And Kevin O'Connell harps on this. But it doesn't seem like these guys are getting the message. Illegal hands to the face. These guys are not getting the message. So in that realm of things, something has to change behind closed doors. I don't know whether it's playing time, benching guys, tongue lashings. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to do something. Because you can't keep coming up to the podium talking about self-inflicted is what's hurting our football team when every week in crucial moments this happens. It was almost like the turnover bug last year. Remember when we were fumbling every other play, every other game last year, just turning the ball over? This year, I believe KLC had his training camp be a little bit different. The training camp this year was supposed to be a little bit more physical. That would help with all of the turnovers and the fumble. You got to do something about the self-inflicted because it's killing. It's killing you. You're not even giving yourselves a chance. You're not even giving yourselves a chance. The Minnesota Vikings they've got to figure out offensively what they're going to do. Because at crucial moments to the game, I mean, the story just remains the same. We come out hot. I don't know whether the plays are scripted or not, but we come out hot. And along the hot streak that there's going to be a dry spell where we can't move the ball. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 and out. The running game is going to become ineffective. We're going to have interceptions and misthrown balls. It just happens every game. And I don't know why we can't stay in rhythm. Because the Minnesota Vikings offense, man, for all intents and purposes tonight, started off great. I turned to my wife watching the game and I said, boy, we're in rhythm tonight. It looked as good as it's ever looked. I love the up-tempo stuff, no huddle. Great job, KOC. But then it just went dry. And then, of course, you got Prime Video. They kept the camera on Jets. They kept the camera on Jets. Jets has already been talking about he's tired of the 80-yard, 90-yard games. He wants to have a breakout game. So now cameras are going to be fixed on every reaction, every interception that Sam Darnold throws, every 1, 2, 3 and out, every time he doesn't get the ball. Now the cameras, the national cameras, are going to be transfixed on Justin Jefferson for the rest of the season. Unless the offense starts to improve and he starts to have big numbers. You know how the national media goes. When you have a big star in not so big markets, they do whatever they can to create a narrative to get that person out of that market and to get them to a bigger market. I've seen it done plenty of times. It's unfortunate. Minnesota Vikings drop a heartbreaker tonight. I was hoping that they would be able to get that to move to 6-1. Now they're 5-2 in a division where everybody's improved and everybody's good. They've got to figure it out. More to come this week on Unconventional Playbook. Hopefully we'll get our guy who's a little bit under the weather, Mr. Patrick Buchanan, to get on at some point during the week, talk a little bit of Minnesota Vikings football. Again, the Minnesota Vikings lose to the Los Angeles Rams 30-20 tonight. Better days ahead. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you when we see you. Latre, take us home.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am?